My choice would have been Hood's organic, but I'll probably go get a basket of the Seascapes and a basket of Hood's. Oops, you know, those are some, let's see what they've got over there. I was sitting in the backyard in my home, just kind of thinking about economic systems and thinking about the world and sort of getting abstract and getting very sort of intellectual and writing about things. And all of a sudden, I was listening to the pears drop in my backyard, and they would just sort of drop and plop and drop and plop. And all of a sudden, I just sort of, it was like Newton and his apples. You know, it sort of struck me that I was trying to get so abstract and heady about it, but here was this food, this fruit that was dropping, and somehow I had gotten to a place in my life that really didn't matter to me. That fruit could rot, and yet food was like the first asset or first, you know, resource, and it was an authentic resource. It wasn't virtual, it wasn't cash, it wasn't represented by anything, that it was in itself an asset. So at that point, I just thought, well, what I want to learn is more about food preservation. Marjorie and I go way back, and of course I knew she had retired as a home economist with Extension, and I called up Marjorie and I said, could you teach me a few things? And she said, sure. So she graciously agreed to do that and put together this great curriculum. So first, when we talk about sweet spreads, this is the full category of what we're talking about. So
I think there's this nostalgia about, you know, canned goods. Well, a lot of our students say, like, well, you know, my grandmother used to do that, or my mother did it, and I never paid attention, and now I'm retired, or now my job, you know, I'm working a different job, or I found out I love gardening, and that's what that drive. You know, once they get in touch with the food, and they see and they think, you know, I wonder if I could can again.
And now you can go all the way in September and still find berries, because there's ever-bearing varieties. But go ahead and just taste. You really begin to sort of see your relationship to the world as it vis-a-vis food, and it's growing in a much more, you know, in a deeper way, and you understand yourself, and sort of kind of going backward, realize how far you've gotten away from a truth. It's there, no matter if it's somebody doing it somewhere else, it's still really the natural systems.
There's something about blueberries in January that I find almost offensive, because I think it's so unnecessary. To me, the best tasting food and the most economical food is that's grown. It's seasonal.
There comes the rhubarb, and there comes the budding of the strawberries, and close behind is going to be the, you know, berries, the blueberries, the raspberries. And at some point, it's like an orchestra. You know, it's just sort of an orchestra back there, because everything is, you know, it's both beautiful and maddening, because you know that you will have to put it up. You know,
big manufacturers, they want standardized pears. They're all going to be the same, and so you cannot have an Oregon peach that would bruise the minute you take it off the tree go into a commercially canned can. It just wouldn't work.
The old wisdoms of our relationship with food and ways to prepare it that didn't make their way into large industrial production couldn't allow for some of the subtleties of your own kitchen, of your own, you know, farm. And some of that, I think, is wisdom that we've lost. And, you know, it's definitely coming back, that's clear. We're focusing on preserving it. But then if you pick it at that peak moment, and you can it at that peak moment or put it up, then it's definitely, as a canned peach, going to be decidedly better.
You can tell when you teach, you know, whether people are engaged or not, and people were left excited. And for me, the most important thing were that people would leave with the confidence in themselves to know that they could safely preserve a food. And so once they get over the fear and they get a little bit of information and they get their hands on it and they process that jar, the sky's the limit.
We started teaching these classes separately, but really in the end, we kind of look at each other and say, well, whose idea was that? That's not really as much fun.
It was your idea.
It was not mine.
It was too.
Please.